Release the Kraken!
Welcome back, fellow game designers. In the last one, we went ahead and created the ability to break the blocks and remove them from the scene. In this one, I want to start building the beginning of our inventory system and our damage system. So for that, we need to texture our blocks and also create some elements to be our inventory system, so some icons and some backgrounds and some slot boxes and that sort of thing. First, let's hop over into Maya and grab our block. So here's our block, and if you recall that our block has the same UVs as Steve, so if I go up to UV here and go UV editor, you'll see it is the standard cube texture map. If you need this, go ahead and go to image and then UV snapshot, and then we are using a size 2048 by 2048. This is going to be a low resolution object, so you don't have to go this high. You can do this as 512 is probably fine. Make sure you save this out as something that you can find, and then we'll bring that over in Photoshop. If you still have the UVs from Steve when we textured Steve, those will work just fine as well, because they are also using the exact same UV layout. So if I grab Steve's head, for example, you can see it's the same. Sorry, Maya's trying to dock the window here. You can see it's the same layout, so same, and so on. I'm going to jump into Photoshop, and I'm going to go ahead and open up my UVs. And if I come into here, under my Not Minecraft folder, I can grab my Not Steve UVs. Remember that this is the same layout as the other, all the blocks in our scene, so go ahead and open that. My usual method, let's go ahead and name this UVs. And then let's throw in a solid color layer, just so it's easier to see. And I'll even throw on, go ahead and open up the UVs here. On the layer styles, I'm going to throw on a stroke, just so I can see what I'm doing. And that shows up a lot nicer on the recording. Okay, so to do the texture, we have to know some things about our block. We need to know where the top of the block is. So if I go into face mode here, the top of the block is this square, and then the front of the block is this one, and the front, of course, is the Z arrow. So that's the front of the block, and then left and right sides, and then the back of the block, and then the bottom. So just make sure that you are familiar with the arrangement of this UV layout here. And let's jump back in. So the first one I'm going to make, to be very simple, is just going to be my dirt, and then my grass, and then so on. I'm only going to do a couple of these in the tutorial, but you are welcome to texture these any way that you like. And I'll show you the method I'm going to use, just to keep things simple. So for my dirt, I'm going to grab two different browns, and I'm going to keep this very low poly. So brown, if I double click on this square here, is somewhere in between orange. So it's like right here, and it's kind of like a dark orange. So there we go. So there's like my first brown. And then I need another brown. Okay, cool. So I have my two browns, and then I'm going to create a new layer and drag this down. This is going to be the dirt layer. So I'll say dirt. Filter, render, clouds, because simplicity. And here's where it's going to get real fun. You can do this as detailed or as polished as you like. I'm going to keep this real low poly, and I'm going to make this kind of like Minecraft in the spirit of having this be pixelated. So there's actually a wonderful filter here. So filter, come down to pixelate, and then go down to mosaic. Now mosaic has this option here for cell size, and if I drag this up, you can see at some point, I'll get right about there, you can see we get some nice pixelated squares. And all you gotta do is make sure that the pixel squares that you pick are gonna be consistent across the board. So I'm gonna do about 90. I think that's a really good one there. Let me try 40 just to see. 40 is not bad. I don't have a lot of distinction between the pixels there. How about 50? Alright, I'll go with 50. I'm gonna hit OK. And I want my mixture to be a little bit darker. You can see one of these are real close to each other. Let me grab my darker color, and I'm going to drop this down a little bit darker. And then I'll redo my dirt, just because it looks like it's, oops, wrong one. Render clouds here. A little bit better. Alright, so go back through and do my pixelate again. Oh, and that shows up much nicer. There we go. So there's my dirt. And I'm just going to turn off my UVs here. Make sure I save this as the Photoshop file, so save as. This is going to be block textures. And then we're going to go ahead and save out a target of this. Now, if you're in the newest update of Photoshop CC, you will notice that when you go to do a save as, and the drop-down, you will no longer have your options because they want to be jerk faces and mess with people. So where this actually is, it's under Save as Copy. So if you do Save a Copy here, it'll open up a new dialog, and you have all of your stuff. It's also available here. So you go to File, come down to Save a Copy. It'll do the same thing. So it'll bring up your list here, except you'll have this goofy copy right here. Just remove that, and you are good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and name this block. And this is block textures, and this one's going to be my dirt. So I'll say dirt. And then this is going to be my targa. I'll go ahead and save that. And everything else works the same, so I hit OK. And there is the dirt targa. So this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to make my dirt targa, and at the same time, I'm going to go back to Maya, and let's go ahead and move this block somewhere. Over here is good. I'm also going to drag in a camera. So go up to rendering, come down and grab a camera. So this guy here, it's going to be called camera 1. I'm going to pilot that camera by going to the top of my viewport here, so panels, and then perspective, and then camera 1. And now I'm inside the camera, and I can pilot this like I would any other camera. So I'm going to get in position here, and I grab this block, press F to frame up. And that's good and center in my view. I'm going to go ahead and just position just a little bit so I can get kind of like the top and however I want. Let's go ahead and add in, hit the shader icon here. I'm going to make this dirt. I'm going to come over and load in the texture file. So File, Folder, my dirt file. Okay, there's my dirt. And now what I want to do is I want to make an icon that will show up for my inventory system. Let's go up to our rendering options here. So we have our little clapboards to render. And I'm going to hit the one with the gear on it. And let's go ahead and scroll down. I'm going to change my renderable camera to camera 1. And then the size is going to be the size that's going to be in the inventory. So I'm actually going to have a slot size in the inventory about 512. So I'm going to do 512 by 512. Okay, and then I can hit this little render preview. Now if you're in Maya 2018 or above, this will render out default as an Arnold render. But we don't want to use Arnold, we're going to use Maya software. And then I'll hit the render button there again. And here is a preview of my render. And you can see how it's positioned in screen. If you want this to be more center, you can see mine's kind of off center. You can go ahead and make an adjustment. If you don't like this washed out look, you can come up to your toolbar here, and you might have to expand this just a little bit. But there is an sRGB gamma. If you hit this little sign here, you can turn that on and off, and you can see what this is going to look like when it's rendered out. So I'm going to position the camera just a little bit over, and then I hit render again. And I like that. That's good. Okay, I'm going to go up to File, and then Save Image. And I want this to be a PNG file, so I'll make this a PNG. And the reason I'm doing a PNG is for the HUD and the UMG kind of stuff. PNGs work really well because I don't have to make additional textures for them. They'll load in and they'll have a natural transparency on them, which is fun. And this is going to be the dirt icon. There's that one. To protect my camera, because my camera is currently moved. If I go to my channel box here, you can see the camera properties. If I go to view, select camera, and here they are. So camera 1, this is where my camera is in space. And if I don't ever want to move my camera, I'm going to come down here on the timeline, just go to frame 1, press the S key, and that'll key the settings for my camera. So if I go over and do something accidental, I can just update my timeline and it'll snap my camera back into position. Just because the movement of the camera does not always get added to the undo list for Control Z, just to be aware of that. Okay, so now all I gotta do is make my next texture, swap it out, and then re-render. So I'm gonna Photoshop, and I'm gonna make my grass this time. So I'm gonna add my UVs back. I have my dirt, I'll make a new layer. And for this one, I'm gonna make my grass color. So I'm gonna grab my green. I like that for the first green. I'm gonna get a lighter green. Let me steal this, and then I will go lighter. Now do my magic here. Photoshop does its magic anyway. So there's that, and then filter. And I'm not going to pixelate just yet. I'm actually going to do my adjustments first. So if I jump out to Minecraft here and I look at their block types, you can see how the grass block looks and the dirt. We have like the grass on the top, and it comes on the edges just a little bit, and then the top is pretty much covered, and so on. So to kind of mimic that, I know that this is my top one, and this is my back, and these are my side and fronts. Okay, so I'm going to select my grass. I'm going to use a non-destructive way of cropping this out. I'm going to come down to our little icon here. This is for creating a mask. Grab that. And what I'll do is I'll select the mask, not the picture. You can see how I can select either of these. Sorry, my mouse double clicks. You can see how I select either of those. I'm going to grab the mask. I'm going to grab the selection tool. Make sure you have the square or rectangle selection. And I'm going to drag a rectangle selection across the area that I want to be for my grass. And you can see how I've kind of cut through. I'm going to try to eyeball this and get it close. So if I use my arrow keys, I can kind of tap that down. And just kind of eyeballing it, that looks pretty close. I'm going to go down one more pixel, 2 pixels, and good enough. Now there are a few different ways that you can measure this out, but that's the kind of the method I'm going to go with for right now. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to go up to select and then do inverse. So that's going to select the opposite of what I'm currently selecting. I'm going to choose black here in my options here. If you don't see black, you can press the D key, and that will set it. But you shouldn't have to. If you're on the mask, you should see this be black and white anyway. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and press delete. And what that's going to do is it's going to crop out everything else and leave the selected area as visible. And look at that. So this is going to be the area available for my grass. And I'm going to go ahead and press Control D to get rid of that selection. And I will select my grass piece. Now let's go ahead and save this out and then see what it looks like in Maya. So I'm going to go up and File, Save Copy. Sometimes Adobe does really dumb things, and I think that's one of those things that it did that's kind of dumb. Targa, I'm going to make this my block, and it's going to be grass. Jump into Maya, select the block. I'll add the color. This is going to be grass. And then I will navigate to the grass file. There we go. And you can see right here how it is lined up. Good, good, good. Let's go to the back side, and you can see I'm off by a little bit of a couple pixels here. So I'm going to jump back into Photoshop, And I'm going to take my selection and just kind of move it. So I'm going to come over to the mask here. I'm going to press Control and then, hold Control and then click on the mask. And that'll select the piece that I want. And then I'm just going to move that down. Grab the Move tool. And I'm going to press down on the arrow key and move that 1 pixel, 2 pixels. Save it out. Where is my dirt? There it is. Jump back into Maya. Update it. Okay, so you can see I went up a little bit. I'm going to go down the other way. So grab it. I'm going to go up 1 pixel. Save out my copy. It's pretty close. It's going to fight me because I think I'm off by an odd number of pixels here, but close enough. I'm going to leave that as it is. You are welcome to fight for perfection. In my particular instance, since this is a recording, I will worry about that off camera. But anyway, once I have this where I want it to be, okay, so the next thing I do is make the detail on here, just kind of like here. Now if you want to do per pixel, you're welcome to. I'm not going to be that precise. Instead, what I'm going to do is grab a selection tool. I'm going to drag this out right here. I'm going to hold Shift to make a square block. I'm going to fill this in with black here. Okay. Now it might not show up just because we do have this mask, but you can see here on the picture it is there. I'm going to go up to Edit, and then let's make a preset here. So define brush preset. I'm going to call this square brush, like so. Awesome, and that gives me a brush preset. I'm going to do Control D to get rid of my selection. And if you change your brush actually to a pencil, you can then scroll down to Brush Presets, grab your square brush, and it's there as well. You can see as I paint, it's going to be in squares. So the advantage of using a pencil over using a brush is it's going to be very crisp, whereas a brush is going to usually have faded edges unless you adjust the hardness. But without further ado, I'm going to kind of zoom in on here, and I'm going to try to match the ideal pixel size of these. These are, I think we did 50. I think it was 50. Yep, that is good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my mask to do the actual cutting. So I'll grab my mask here. Whoops. Make sure you select the mask. And then as you go and paint, you will end up removing or adding. So if I have white selected, I'm going to add. And if I have black selected, I'm going to remove. Cool. And then the pattern I'm going to do, I'm not going to be very precise, but you're welcome to go through and be more patient than I am. I'm actually just going to go and very nonchalantly cut across to get a pattern. So here we go. And just be aware that whatever you do on one side, you have to pay attention to do that on the other, because this is the back, right? So I need to make sure that I'm doing that over here on this side. So this side kind of wraps around and connects to this side right here, right? So this side is that side, and this side is this side over here. So just be aware of that. So now I'm going to come in. This is going to be down near the bottom, so near the bottom. I'm going to cut some patterns here. And this one is about that far off, so. Okay, don't worry about this little green section that I cut out here. This is just me pointing the little arrows. This kind of goes here, and this one goes there. All right, let's go ahead and save that. That won't be visible on the actual object. So let's save it. Jump into Maya. We'll update. And there's that. Let me remove the UVs. Turn those off, just so I can see the pattern better. And it's actually not too bad. There's a little bit of a rigid part right there, but let's go check the other side. Oh, and that actually kind of works with the pattern. I'll probably trim that corner a little bit, but let's grab the actual texture this time. Then go to Filter, come down to Pixelate, and then run our mosaic. Hey, look what we got. And hit OK. And I can save this out as the final version of that. Come back in, update the texture, and you can see that this is like this. Hey, there we go. So there's our very simple Minecraft grass and dirt. And then you can see I've moved my camera, but because I did my preset on my camera, if I hit the timeline, it sets my camera back to where it was, which is great. So I can render out the next image, and then File, Save, and this is going to be my grass icon. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to call the video here. In the next one, we are going to start doing the background for the inventory and the background for the inventory slots. And then after that, we'll start putting some of this stuff together back in Unreal. So until the next one, make some more blocks. I'm going to make about 4 for the video. You guys are welcome to make as many as you like. And yeah, I shall see you next time. Don't forget to save your work. Hey guys, thanks for checking out the channel. Misty and I both thank you. If you enjoyed that video you just watched, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, I'm getting into NFTs. Those are big these days. I was thinking about creating my own coin, but we'll get into that at a later date. But NFTs are pretty hot right now. I'm converting my artwork to NFTs. You can see my Rarible page right here. I've only got 4 items, but I'm adding one as they go. They're not cheap to make, so I gotta make them as they go. If you want to support the channel other ways, of course, there's Lame Duck Studios merch, which you can see right here on my Teespring store, as well as Amazon. Speaking of Amazon, I have my books up there under Bruce RF, which is my pen name. Life and Times of Donna Martin, as well as The Guardian's Path of Ascension. You can flip through those and see the reviews, and yeah, grab a copy, read it, tell me what you think. It helps me out as an author. It also helps me out as, everything goes back into the stuff that I'm doing. So more content for you. If you want to keep up with me throughout the day, or just kind of see what's going on in life, hit me up on Twitter under BruceRF1. Again, that is my pen name. If you want to see what's going on my blog, ronflowersjr.me, you can see what I'm writing about, what else is going on in life, difficulties that I have with my projects that I'm working on. A lot of my devlog stuff kind of goes there before it comes here, so it's another way of kind of getting into that. I do also have a Patreon where I release content early if you want to get access to things ahead of time, because most of the stuff that I produce, I do things on Sundays and I post on Wednesdays most often, but it goes to Patreon first, so it's kind of there usually a week or so ahead of time, and then it has a release schedule. So if you want to see things early, go there. Let's see, what else is going on? You can also follow me on Facebook under you can do the Lame Duck Studios Facebook or the Bruce RF Facebook. Both of those are available. And a lot of these links are down in the description, so if you want to just hit those up and just click on them and follow them through, that's another way of getting there. Also, we are at 1,300 subscribers. Woo! We're this close to 10,000. But small milestones first. Let's get to 2,000 subscribers, and then we will continue our road building toward that 10,000 milestone. That is going to be pretty awesome for this channel, my humble channel. So yeah, that's all I have for you on this outro. It's a bit of a long one, but a lot of stuff going on. Anyways, stay tuned, and I shall see you next time.